First and foremost, new look starting lineup for you guys tonight. You enter the starting lineup. Jimmy comes back. How do you feel about that group's minutes together?
Second half, we were a lot better. First half, we were a little lethargic. Jimmy was great, but yeah, I mean, we're all familiar with playing with each other, so it's not necessarily like a total new look, new feel. There's definitely a lot of continuity there as well.
Well, you mentioned it. The first half was a struggle offensively. Then in the second half, you get to the third quarter, you start hitting threes. Tyler starts hitting threes. Everything really turns around. What got said here in the locker room at halftime that shifts the mentality or even the play that way?
Yeah, we were pretty even keeled. We knew we didn't just play to our standard in that first half, and we wanted to come out and just set the tone with urgency first. And the second group gave us huge lift in the first half and kept us in it, gave us a game, and wanted to start that third quarter with a little punch.
Well, you mentioned the second group. I mean, when you look at the depth on this team, that you can have Alec Burks and Drew Smith, who didn't play for 5 games, come in here and step up and play that way. What do you think it says about, this unit that those guys are so prepared to come in and make an impact that way?
Yeah, ultimate pros. I mean, Alec's been doing this a long time, and he's a super talented player, man. He's played just about every role there is to play, and we know very well what he's capable of. And maybe a lot of people don't know what Drew's capable of, but I think internally we all know what he's capable of as well. I mean, he's just a winning player, super scrappy, tough, works his tail off. A lot of hours put into becoming a better shooter and playmaker, and the defense speaks for itself. The way he flies around and makes plays. So those guys both give us huge lift.
I know there's not a ton of emotional reactions one way or another in regular season games, but to be able to end 7 games in 13 nights on a winning note, headed into a little bit of a break here, how much better does that feel than being on the other side of it?
Yeah, well, way better than losing this one where you got to sit with it. But there were some positive things to take away from the stretch. Obviously far from satisfied. A lot of things we got to do a lot better, and we all know that. But it's good to come away with a win in this one and sort of regroup and lock in for this next stretch.
Duncan, as much as you've played with 3 of the guys in that starting lineup over the years, that starting lineup has only played 5 minutes together in the last 2 seasons. But it's crazy, right? Yeah. But I mean, it looks comfortable though, because you obviously have a natural rapport playing with all those guys. How do you think it fits?
I mean, there's a lot of continuity there. I mean, I guess you say we haven't played all together 5 minutes, but I've logged a lot of hours with JB. I've logged a lot of hours with Bam, H, Tyler. We've just been on the court a bunch together, practice, games, walkthroughs, everything, right? So there's a lot of familiarity there, and regardless of the fact we've only played 5 minutes, it doesn't mean that we don't have that continuity and connection.
I guess to Tyler first. Tyler, considering the exhausting trip and then coming back in a back-to-back and then going down by 19, what does it say about this team that after all of that, you guys found a way to come back and suddenly you're up 16 in the third quarter?
I mean, it's big. I think it says a lot about our depth on this team. Some guys didn't play on the road trip, but I thought, everyone that played tonight impacted the game, in different ways. In different stretches throughout the game, I thought everyone played and impacted the game so that we could either come back and then push the lead forward.
Jimmy, you had more free throw attempts than Philly as a team, and I was just curious, this being your first game back, just how much does that aggressiveness open up things for you, and how do you think that makes the game easier for your team?
I mean, I think it slows the game down so everybody gets to get a break, including myself. But just staying aggressive, getting into the paint, getting fouled, getting into the paint, kicking out to my guys to score the ball. I think I just did what I'm supposed to do at a decent level tonight.
Jimmy, obviously the third quarter has been the narrative, but this time around it was the best quarter offensively and defensively. Can you just kind of talk about the focus of going up against the 76ers?
Yeah. I mean, they are a good team. They're not playing the best basketball right now, but they got some hellified players that can score. And I think we did a great job of scoring ourselves and getting some stops. But more than anything, I think we just played together, moved the ball, took what the defense gave us, and scored some points. It looked good.
Jimmy, I know you entered the season wanting to be more available this year. How tough was it to miss time earlier in the season, and how are you feeling physically?
I feel great right now. Look, a little tired, not gonna lie, a little out of shape maybe, but I got a couple days to get back into that. I'm glad I get to hoop again, compete with my guys. This guy right here has been holding it down for us these first couple of games, and I just want to be there to help, make it easy for him a little bit. And I think we all starting to get into a rhythm, and we're gonna win a couple in a row.
Jimmy, when Spo in that second quarter kind of broke the regular rotation and left you in with the bench lineup, what was that group of guys able to do during that time to kind of eat into the lead and make the halftime more manageable?
Just keep the game simple, shoot that bad baby when you're open, pass it whenever you're not, and play together. We got some stops. We just was playing fast, rotating, getting some rebounds, outletting the ball, and I think that's what got us back in the game.
How needed is this 5-day break right now after just the grueling road this team has been on?
I think it's much needed. I think everyone's going to take a couple of days off, get some treatment, let their bodies rest, recover, and then we'll get right back to it and start preparing for the next stretch of games we got coming up.
Jimmy, you kind of alluded to Tyler, but as many years as you've had with him, you're seeing the year that he's having. Have you seen improvements, growth? What have you seen from Tyler this year?
Yeah, he's a prolific scorer and can score on all levels. It's actually really impressive. But more than anything, I like the fact, and I think we all like the fact that he takes a challenge on defense more. Like he wants to guard somebody and then go down there and give them 30, 40, however many that may be. We want him to keep playing like that. We always have. He's without a doubt one of the best scorers on this team. I'm not going to say he is the best, but he can get a bucket. That's for damn sure. I beat you at 1-on-1 in training camp, so don't talk to me.
Don't say one of them. It's either one or...
Spo, who's 1A?
Who's 1B?
My boy.
Tyler, you've been playing with Duncan for so long now, but you're playing more next to him, actually, and obviously you started this game with him. What do you think's the difference there of how you guys are playing off each other and the different actions you're able to run with him?
Duncan, he's played with all of us for so long now, and he's another guy who creates, advantages, over reactions. That's what Duncan brings, and obviously his shooting, the way he moves without the ball, he just makes everything so easy on everyone else, and he really opens the floor up for everyone.
Thank you, guys.
Not every coach is going to want to sit two of their stars at the end of the second quarter, so what was the decision there to run with that group, and how did that group kind of change the energy of the game for you?
Yeah, and everybody understood. Look, basically what I told the guys at halftime is the guys that were grinding, through this road trip, they had put it all out there, and we didn't have a day to gather ourselves. This was an unusual travel, deal, and we wanted to make sure we're not making any excuses. But that's what we have our bench for, to go in there and give us a spark, give us some life, and that's what they did. Drew and Alec, they've been chomping at the bit, and they've been preparing, and they're ready, and they gave us a great spark, along with, K-Love in the third quarter. But sometimes, you rely on your first unit and best players, to set the tone, and then sometimes you have to go into the rotation, and that was the beauty of tonight. Those guys really acknowledged it too. They weren't like, they're competitors, but they weren't like kicking chairs and saying, "Oh, I should be out there." They're like, "No, we need a lift right now," and that's what they got. And then in the third quarter, Tyler played really well. Bam was good. When we got really active with our defense, and they got the breather that they needed, and we were able to carry that on to a win.
Speaking of fresh bodies, obviously Jimmy, pretty fresh coming in. How much of a boost? How much do you carry this forward? How much is this sort of what's the expectation going forward when Jimmy's healthy?
We know what the expectation is when he's healthy. And, we saw that in the first quarter. He really set the tone by imposing his physical will on the game, but also just his savviness, to be able to control the game in that second quarter. Those deep
outlets for early post-ups, transitions, semi-break opportunities where he's able to take advantage of things, loose balls, 50-50 deals, all of it. He can just kind of control segments of games. And in that second quarter, that was a big-time example of that. But he also appreciates how deep this team is. Where if he comes out, he knows that we have a lot of guys that can keep the momentum going, and he likes that. And I think our team is in a place that will get a better understanding of that and a better appreciation, as the season goes on.
I know injuries kind of forced it, but that starting five hadn't played much together in the last few years. What do you like about that group with Haywood and Duncan around those three?
Well, if you look at the core four, and then you add H, who's been with us since the post-COVID year, those are our most experienced guys in our program. So they understand exactly what we're trying to get to. Even though we've made some adjustments, they know what our core tenets are. They've had the most experience, playing with various combinations with each other. That matters. This is such a transient league right now. That core probably has as much experience as anybody in the league outside of Boston.
Can you talk a little bit about that third quarter? I know it's been a talking point, but when you're facing a team that, they're 2-11, but they're better than their record, can you just kind of talk about the focus of how to face them?
I would say that we've talked about that ad nauseum. So the guys have taken that on as a competitive challenge, and we were able to do that tonight. And a large part of that was that second unit with K. Love, Alec, and Drew. Drew is really active, tonight. Again, I'm not even going to look at the box score, but he just does a lot of things that allow your better players be who they need to be. And defensively, he's a pest. He really is. So it's not necessarily about his stats or his scoring. All that stuff is getting better. Especially his shooting. But it's all the intangibles that every team in this league needs, and he provides a lot of those.
Coach, Jimmy had more free throw attempts than Philly as a team, and I was just curious what stood out to you about his aggressiveness in that regard, driving to the basket, and just overall how that changes the makeup of the team.
Yeah, when Jimmy feels good physically and fresh, he's going to get to the free throw line. He's going to create collisions. He's not flopping. He's putting his head down and he's creating some action. But he's also able to do it with the poise and savviness and experience to make the right play. He did that a bunch of times where he got in there and found open shooters. So we'll keep him as physically youthful, as we possibly can the rest of the year and utilize our depth to do that.
44 three-pointers tonight, but it wasn't a good first half despite how good the second half was. But is it getting easier to kind of just stick with taking those three-pointers even when there's a little bit of a cold spell?
Yeah, I think our guys understand that the symbiotic relationship matters. That opens, and we have way too many ignitable, game-changing three-point shooters not to take advantage of it. We really do. You even saw that with Alec in the second quarter, who hasn't played in a handful of games, and all of a sudden he can go on a run. Tyler can go on a run. Duncan can go on a run. All these guys can go on a run. K-Love. But it also is not just that. It's Jimmy getting to the rim, Bam creating actions, and different guys at different times getting into the paint. We need both, so it's not just one or the other.
You spoke about the experience level of the starting lineup, and specifically Tyler and Duncan. They played together for so long, but what do you think is the difference right now of why they're playing so well off each other, and what do you like about just those lineups and those actions that you're able to run with maybe those two and Bam?
I think at this point they both understand how they can confuse defenses, and they're finding a sense of joy in that. and playing off each other, 2-man actions, 3-man actions, the more things that are tough to guard when you have that level of shooting skill and ability to put the ball on the floor and make the right plays. I think they've really embraced that. They've both grown, with their skill set, both grown with their ability to do it as a screener or with the ball handler or just moving, constantly. And it's having a clear mind to embrace that and have fun with it.
McCain's been really good lately, and he got going a little bit early on, and then you dial up some blitzes on him. I know you'll do that against a lot of ball handlers, but how much of that tonight was just kind of testing out a guy you haven't seen before and seeing how he'll respond to pressure?
Well, you don't want to see him just line up open looks. I've watched, I watched his edit, this morning. He's pretty impressive for a young guy, and we watched a ton of his stuff from college. He's right in that wheelhouse. He's an explosive shooter, and he plays with a motor. And he's fearless. So he's trying to make things happen. So you don't want. We also wanted to kind of dictate the game instead of reacting. It was more about that than necessarily just trying to game plan against him. All right, thank you.